Hey everybody, welcome to the first course on family secrets. We're going to be talking to you today in this particular unit about how to prepare for marriage, how to get yourself ready, and we're going to talk about personal preparation. We're not talking about the wedding at this point. We're not talking about the honeymoon. We're not talking about booking the hotel or the car. Today we want to talk to you about your personal preparation to get married. So we want to touch on several things today. We're going to talk today, I'm just looking at our notes. We're going to talk about skills that you're going to need. We're going to talk about maturity. We're going to talk about the spiritual aspect of your getting ready to be married, and even how to pray in regards to that. So we're going to have this conversation with each other, but really it's for you. So welcome to today's unit on this course of personal preparation for marriage. Here we go. Ready? All right. We're going to start with maturity. Talk about that a little bit, Les, about what's it mean when we say maturity in personal preparation.
If you're going to be married, you can't be immature. You can't be selfish. Marriage is the most selfless thing you're going to do, next to having children, which is the next selfless thing you're going to do. So you can't be all about yourself. Can't be all about looking out for childish things in your life. You have to grow up.
Yeah.
Marriage means you have to grow up. You can't be all fun and games. There has to be a serious side to living life.
Yeah.
What we encourage people to do is to be sure that you are grown up enough to handle living life with someone else and actually being responsible for someone else. I mean, you need to be able to help that other person, to share with that other person, to be open with that other person. It takes maturity to be able to expose all of who you are to someone else. You can't just jump into it and be guarded, and then you'll have a divider in your marriage. It won't work.
Yeah, and here's the thing: we've all got blind spots that we can't see where we are not mature, where we're not ready, or we're not able to grow. And so we're not talking about being perfect. We're talking about maturing to the point that you can actually get married and stay married. That's our goal. We're talking about being unbreakable families. Right. So if you're not an unbreakable couple, you're never going to have an unbreakable family. Right. Yep. So it starts with you. It starts with you and whoever your spouse may be. We did some things personally for our own maturity when, way back in the day when we got married 30 plus years ago. For example, it was really funny because when we became a couple and got together, we started combining our resources and the things that we had been looking at and doing to prepare ourselves. Yep. I wasn't trying to prepare her. She wasn't trying to prepare me. I was preparing myself to be a husband and a dad eventually.
Before we ever knew we were us.
Yeah, we weren't even a couple at that point. I knew Leslie, but I didn't. There was no item there. And so we're reading books and we're going to classes and we're doing, and this is well before what you guys have such convenience with Google and internet and YouTube and all the things that you have. There's such a plethora of information out there, a lot of it bad, but some of it decent, that you have available at your fingertips, what we did not have 30 plus years ago. So we invested in ourselves, because when we became engaged, the pastor that married us, we went to pastor, his name was John. Pastor John, we went to him and we brought this stack of books, this huge stack of books, and set them on his desk. And we're like, this is what we've read. What's next? So and he laughed at us because he thought we were kind of funny. And so, but we're serious. Marriage is probably the second largest commitment and decision you're going to make in your life. Number one, becoming a Christian or not. Right. And number two is who you're going to spend your life with. Yeah. And when we decided, we were both people that when we was like, we're going to get married, it wasn't, we're going to try this out. Right. This wasn't a car that I was going to take and use for 6 years and trade into a new model. This was a lifetime commitment. Right. And that's part of the maturity process. Yes. Is being able to make a commitment that you're like, I'm making this decision and I'm standing by it forever. Yep. Anything else to add to maturity?
No, I think that's really good. You have to be willing to grow up as a first thing. first thing. You have to be willing to grow up. And if
Yeah.
you can't do that yet, you're not ready yet. You're not ready yet. And that's what you're going to continue to do, some things to help yourself get ready.
Yeah.
By reading, by studying, by learning new skills even. And
Yeah.
so,
And even then, we thought we were grown up when we got married, but we've grown so much more
Yeah.
since then.
Yeah.
We had prepared ourselves, but we still weren't on the level that we're at today. That's one reason we're bringing the information to you,
Right.
because we don't want you to get disillusioned, have false expectations, and end up in divorce court.
Mhm.
So we want to help you, because you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be so mature that everything's right,
Right.
but you're going to have enough maturity level that you can handle the pressure, the temptations, and the things that come your way when you first get married,
Right.
and deal with becoming one.
Yeah.
Because we were two when we became one,
Mhm.
and it's not an overnight sensation.
No.
Technically, it's overnight because you got married and you became one the moment you got married.
Yeah.
But it takes some time to get there.
Yeah.
And so that's the maturity process, helps you to make it through to the time that you become fully one together. Anything else?
As you, when you're a single person and you're looking to get married, we want you to remember that the Lord
Yeah.
is the one who brings
Yeah.
the two together. He knows when the right timing is. He knows when you're ready and when the other person is ready and when it'll work. And so please listen to the Lord and don't jump ahead of him, but walk his pathway for
Yeah.
your getting together and getting married. So
That's really good. And we'll address that a little bit more in just a moment, because we're going to get to the spiritual stuff. But before we do that, I want to now shift a little bit, and I want to talk to you about, you have to have certain skill sets before you get married. And what do you mean by that? I just need to love her, need to love him. What kind of skills do I need to be married? You'll be surprised.
Yeah.
You'll be very surprised. There's some very basic skill sets that you're going to need. I'm going to let Leslie address that, because she's really good at being practical, rubber meet road stuff. I'm more of a big picture person, and she's more of a let's do this today because it has to get done.
Yep.
And so we're going to just let her talk to you about some of the skills that you're going to need as you enter into marriage. Go ahead, hon.
A lot of times you have gone to high school, gone to college, you know all kinds of things about maybe a career that you've pursued or something that you're really interested in doing with your life, but you never learned the basics of home management. You never learned how to pay bills. You didn't learn how to balance your checkbook. Even if you
Right.
do it online, you've got to keep track of it. You have to know what's happening with your money. That's one of the major skills that you need to have is a money skills. If you can keep track of paying off your debt, keep track of paying off the regular bills that happen every month, if you can, if you're able to find and secure housing, whether you buy a house or you rent, you have to be on top of money in
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
relationship,
Absolutely.
because money is one of the number one things
Yeah.
that causes division in a marriage. If you can't agree on the money, if you can't agree on how to handle the money, if you can't agree on how to spend the money or
Yeah.
on how to save the money, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem area. So
Yeah.
a skill that you have to have is you need to know how to balance those
Absolutely.
checkbooks. You need to know how to pay the bills. You need to know if you need insurance or if you don't, or if how much you need, or you need to look at the things that deal with all the household security, all the things that it takes to make your home a safe place, to make your home a place where you can thrive and your spouse can thrive with you. Those are important things in the skill area. For both of you, it's great if you know how to cook. If you don't, you might want to take a few classes, or
Yeah.
you might want to ask your mom. You might want to ask grandma. I don't know, whoever cooks well in your family. Find out how to cook. You need to be able to nourish yourself and your family.
You can only eat pizza and nachos
That's
so
right,
often.
so often,
You got to
and then
figure something out
It's
here.
going to get old and it's not good for you. So a skill that you need to have is you need to be able to cook. You need to be able to
Yeah.
create meals, or at least do the basics of meals. You got to be able to hit the 4 food groups and all that stuff. So please make sure you can do that kind of stuff. Another area might be first aid. Do you know what to do in an emergency? Those are things that when you're on your own, maybe your parents always handled it. Maybe You always had a friend who knew what to do when you were, getting it, when you had an accident or something happened. But you need to know first aid skills. Skills are important in that area to know how to doctor someone if something happens, and you can call the ambulance, but you might need to have a little first aid going on before that gets there. So those are skills. Those are things that need to happen in maturing adults. Need to know those things.
Yeah, I've got one for you. This is one of my favorites, just so you know. It's absolutely one of my favorite things to do, and I'm being facetious here. Laundry. You need to have clean clothes. It's just a thing. I don't know why, but it's a thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't like, now here's the thing with the skills, and we've done this. If there's certain skills that you don't like to do, but the other person does, and vice versa, you can trade off. Maybe you don't mind washing dishes. Dishwashers are better, but you had to wash the dishes. You don't mind it, but you hate laundry. Yeah. Well, I'll do the dishes if you'll do the laundry, and work out a trade-off as part of maturing as well. Yep. So even though you may have the skill to actually do it, you may not like doing it. Right. Welcome to adulthood. Yes. But you still have to do these things. So that's just one. I'm just having some fun with that. But I do not like to do laundry. You can go back and talk to my college roommate. He'll tell you. He was the one that yelled at me, "You need to wash your clothes." I had a bag full of them in the closet in college, and after a while, that doesn't smell so good. And so he's like, "Go wash your clothes, man. They're stinking up the room." So I'm just being honest with you and transparent. I don't like to do laundry, so guess what I don't do? I don't do laundry. My wife and a couple of my children do, and I'm excited that they do the laundry. It's amazing because socks, T-shirts and underwear magically reappear. It's great. But these are skill sets that you need to learn and have in your life.
Another one to really pay attention to is you need to know how to keep a house clean.
Yeah.
You can't live in a pigsty, not as a mature adult. And you don't want people to come over and visit you in a pigsty. So you have to be able to pick up things, clean things. You don't want to get sick, so you have to have germs cleaned up. Yeah. It's really important. It sounds basic, but sometimes people don't know the basics. You've got to be able to clean up your own space, keep up your own house. So.
Yeah. And what's this got to do with being an unbreakable family? Well, the scripture says that it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. Yes. In other words, it's the little things, the small things. Did I put the toilet paper on the way that I want to, or the way she wants to, vice versa? I can't tell you people fight over that, right? Yeah. Do I squeeze the toothpaste in the middle or from the bottom? Do I roll it? This sounds stupid, but people fight over these little things. You have to be able to have the conversation that goes back to maturity, and then the skills to do all these things together. Yes. And so we're just trying to give you some very basic beginning steps in marriage that are very rubber meet road, very practical, very natural things that you have to have an ability to do these things to stay married. It sounds silly, but it's so true, because if you let that become an offense to you, the scripture says a brother offended is harder to come back to and get back into relationship with than a walled city. So you don't want little offenses building over time to cause you to be separating because of the offenses that you're getting. So it goes back to both maturity and the skills that you need to build your home. All right, we want to pivot from that because I want to talk to you what I think is really the most important thing in your life. Even though these things are really good and they're practical, this next one, if you don't get this right, it's going to be really difficult to stay long term, because if you haven't figured it out yet, marriage is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And it takes a long term mental thought process to stay married. When you're looking at that person, you're like, I'm going to be married to that person 30, 40, 50, 60 years, depending on how long your lifespan is. And you need to realize, wow, we've been married just over 30 years, 31 years this particular year when we're making this video. And it's been a blink. It's just been really, really quick. So, but the thing that's held it together is this next area. And I want to talk to you about spiritual maturity. I want to talk to you about spiritual preparation for your marriage. Prayer, number one. You got to pray for each other. Whether you do it together or not, that's recommended. But you still have to pray for one another, because we do things apart quite a bit. We do all the things together, but we do things apart. So I may not have I may be going somewhere when she's getting ready to have the kids and the family pray. So I'm not praying with them per se in that moment in the building, but I'm praying for them as I'm not going and doing.
Right.
So prayer is the cornerstone of the spirituality of your relationship. Anything else, Dad? I know there's more things, but
Yeah. No, prayer is very important, and you need to learn to do that without being embarrassed with each other.
yeah,
Now, if you don't know who your spouse is, but you're just preparing to be a wife or to be a husband, then you need to pray for that person, for their growth and their maturity to happen at the same time yours is happening. You need to pray for that person to be spiritually what you want, a leader in your family.
Yeah.
You want someone who is willing to share and to be open. You want to have, whatever is important to you characteristic wise, especially your mental and emotional characteristics. You want to pray over those things. Ask the Lord to send someone to you
yeah,
who's got those characteristics. You ask Him to bring that person across your path. You ask for them, the Lord to join you together,
Yes.
to show you who the other is.
Mhm.
And so those are important things to be praying about.
Yeah.
Thank Him for doing that. Thank the Lord for bringing that person to you. And believe that He's going to do it, because He will.
Yeah, let me give you this. I'm sorry, itch my nose. Let me just really quick give you a little balance to what Leslie just said, because it's really easy, especially for, well, guys and girls. But I found more for the girls than the guys. But and it's this: don't just put physical attributes that you like.
Right.
It's okay to be attracted to a certain look.
Yeah.
It's okay to have a certain way a person looks, a certain hair color, a certain body build. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But if that's where you're limiting your prayer to, then you're missing the character and the depth of the person that's going to be your spouse to be.
I have to share. So, this is not what I prayed for physically, but I love him totally, and everything about Brian is what I need and want and prayed for characteristic wise, who he is as a person, and it just everything about him, who he really is inside. That is exactly what I needed and what I wanted. But it's just not necessarily, he's not necessarily the type that I would have prayed for or I would have looked for. And that's why it's a God thing. It's not a me thing. It wasn't my flesh and what my flesh wanted. It was what God knew was perfect for me.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's really important not to get too hung up on the physical things. It's okay to ask. You can ask God for anything. You ask
Absolutely.
God for tall, dark, and handsome, or short, blonde, and cute. I don't know. But you can ask God for that. It's just you need to be flexible and receive what God's bringing to you.
Yeah.
And look more truthfully to the attributes than you do to the physical look.
No, and she's so right. I know when I was praying for my spouse to be whoever that was going to be, ended up being Leslie. I'm so thankful for that. But whoever it was, I remember telling the Lord in prayer, I don't care if she's white, black, brown, Asian. I don't care. I just know whoever you bring to me will be someone that just knocks my socks off, someone I'm going to be really excited to be with, someone that I want to hang out with and enjoy. And I didn't care about any of that. And I told him, I don't care if she's tall, short, thin, not thin. That didn't matter to me, because I knew that God would put in my heart a love for that person, whoever she may be. And then I prayed 3 areas of scripture. There's a scripture in Proverbs that says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing and gets favor from the Lord. So it's important who you get married to, and that you get the right person. The other scriptures in Matthew, and it says every good thing comes from the Father above. And then I would pray over Proverbs chapter 31, which is very famous to be about the virtuous woman. So I was praying for my virtuous woman, and I didn't put a name to it, didn't put a size to it, but I prayed those scriptures for a number of years, believing for God to give me the woman of my dreams, and he did that. And guys, I want to tell you this, if you pray, people ask me all the time, because my wife's just beautiful, and look at her, she's kind of giving me that look, but she's beautiful, and I married up, I married beyond what I should probably be married to, and people all the time like, how did you get her to marry? What kind of lies did you tell her? And I tell them all the time, all I did was pray a lot. I prayed a lot, and then God connected us as a couple. So the spiritual part of your life will actually play out in the physical part of your life. It'll play out in everything that you do. And no, I am not one bit what she used to date and look at. I am not even close to that. But thankfully, she stuck around with me for a long, long time. Anything else you can think about personal preparation?
Just there are some books.
Yes.
There are some books and resources that we're gonna make sure that you have.
You'll see when you get done the video, there'll be a link to some resources that are some of the books that we use. We're also have talked with, like, our oldest daughter's married and has children, so we've updated our resource list to some more modern books as well. So you're getting a blend of two different generations of resources that say these are great things for you to know. These are great things for you to have information from. So look for that when you get done with this unit, and at the end of the unit you'll see a link for that, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next unit inside this course of getting ready for and preparing for marriage. Thank you for your time today.